Ryan.
To protect him, shield him from harm, to teach him
No,
what's
I'm not
right
right.
and what's wrong. The sound of his first words, the warmth of his smile, delight in just watching him grow. He sits, crawls, and walks in his own special style. What a shock when he learns to say no. How quickly the years have gone by, how they flow. The son that I've nurtured has blossomed and grown into a young man with a mind of his own. And I'm thankful and proud of his ways. May peace brighten all of his days. Soon he goes off to school and his world now includes friends, books, and favorite toys. To share in his triumphs, his fears, and his moods is the pleasure of loving my boy. Some days bring good time, some days bring pain. Some skies are cloudy, some blue. But we learn together that after the rain, the sun always comes shining through. How quickly the years have gone by, how they flow. The sun that I've nurtured has blossomed and grown into a young man with a mind of his own. And I'm thankful and proud of his ways. May peace brighten all of his days. The child's now a young man, it's hard to believe how time catches up from behind. He is blessed with fine gifts, he works hard to achieve. He is loving and ever so kind. So I'll sing to you, my son, my own special boy. May you always continue to be a source of great pride and a source of great joy to your friends and your whole family. How quickly the years have gone by, how they flow. The sun that I've nurtured has blossomed and grown into a young man with a mind of his own. And I'm thankful and proud of his ways. May contentment fill all of his days. Yes, I'm thankful and proud of his ways. May peace brighten all of his days.
For those who may not have recognized this, that was Lorraine opening her own memorial service in the way only Lorraine could, by expressing her great pride in her family, who many of you can see. Before I introduce myself, I'd like to thank all of you for coming, and just a word of explanation on Zoom. If you want to see everybody's boxes, please leave your Zoom screen in gallery mode. If, however, you want to see the speakers, I suggest you toggle your arrow over your Zoom screen, and in the top right corner, you'll see a box with 3 dots on it. If you press that, you can choose speaker mode, and in speaker mode, you'll then see one main screen. I'll explain that again when we get to the eulogy portion of the service. So again, I'm sure it means a lot to the family to see so many of you joining us on Zoom. My name is Andy Berlin. I am a Reform rabbi, but more importantly, I am a family friend. I got to know Lorraine through Marc and Ann Silverberg and their children, who are very good friends of my children. And the first time I met Lorraine, she and I just clicked. We had a lot in common, and I cherished every time she would come visit her grandchildren. My own children called her Safta, so much so that when I said to my kids that I needed to let them know that Safta died, they knew exactly who I was talking about and were asking about how Zach and Alexia were doing. I have gotten to know the rest of the family at times, I'm sure, through the many joyous events in Alexia and Zach's lives over the years. And it is hard now to be with them at this time, but I also want to thank them for giving me the honor of being able to do this final act for Lorraine, because death has taken our beloved Lorraine. And we see as our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, we pray that they find the presence of loving friends, the presence of each other, a loving family. Hear them, be with them. For Lorraine's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever new message of our oneness. It tells of our kinship, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. We, along with many traditions, turn first to Psalm 23 to ask how we can cope with such difficulties of knowing that even as things work in their ideal, children must mourn their parents, grandchildren must mourn their grandmother, great-grandchildren must also mourn the great-grandmother that they did not grow to know. Adonai ra'i lo achsar, binot desha yerbetzeni, al mei menuchot yinachaleni. The Lord God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul and guides me in straight paths for the name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me, and you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. We also, before the eulogies, turn to the quintessential Jewish mourner, the one who understood tragedy the most. Because in his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Hishem Adonai mevarach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. As an ancient people, we are well acquainted with the grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. So with Job, we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us Lorraine, who will never be forgotten, for all that was good and enduring in her life, especially those of you who are sitting in the sanctuary. The best things about her life. We offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. But we know we also have to say Adonai lakach. God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust before which we acknowledge sovereignty and love. As one day we are able to say, Hishem Adonai mevarach. Blessed be all of us. Blessed be our connections, now and forever. To remember Lorraine, we're going to ask those who knew her best to share their memories with us. They will speak in this order. First, her daughters-in-law, Courtney, Anne, and Donna. Then her eldest grandson, Uriah, and then sharing a song for Safta, Alexia, Shira, and Lauryn. And then finally her sons, Ian, Marc, and Bryan. And again, now I suggest that you do turn to speaker view by toggling over the box with the three dots on top of it, and then changing it to speaker. Courtney.
Okay. You guys, thank you so much for being here. Obviously, we've loved Safta more than we can explain. Do you want here? Okay, I'm in the view. Just wanted to say a few words about the great fortune that we have had to have Safta in our lives. I've known her, my entire adult life, almost 30 years. And she was the first of all of you, including Ian, with Ian, to accept me into your family. And she did so with giant open arms and never hesitated. We then had the great fortune to have her move with us to Santa Barbara when Lauryn was born. And she spent every single day with us. It was incredible to have that kind of support. I had that from my grandma growing up, and it was a special bond that is hard to break and will never break. And then Ashton was born, and she came over every single night when he was young, and she would hold him while I cooked dinner and served it, and she would stand and she would refuse to eat with us because she would hold the baby, and I had so much help from her, and it was a really amazing and special time. And then we had the good fortune to bring her along when we came to Utah and continue with those special years so that we could really just be a part of, she could be a part of our life, really, is how I would say it, because she was so adamant about giving and being present and just always, always giving and never asking. And her love was really, really special. And I will say how quickly the years have gone by. And I love you, Safta.
I think you'll hear some themes today because we all felt her love so strongly. Safta was an amazing person. She was so talented, so gifted. She was incredible to be around. But the thing I want to talk about is this love. But to me, she felt like love. And I felt it first when I was introduced almost 40 years ago, Marc, my God, as your girlfriend. And she welcomed me and brought me in and made me feel comfortable. And I have felt it ever since. I have felt like part of the family. I have felt welcomed. And it is incredible because I know I'm not the only one who has these feelings. And I feel love like her own daughter. Her ability to love was felt, but it was seen even more when the kids arrived. And she became Safta to our kids and to all of the children. And that's where I recognize her superhuman ability to love, her capacity to love. It was bigger than anything that I had seen before. We all felt it. It was all encompassing. It was always present. And it was so, there was so much love that each individual person felt like they forever our hearts. and thank you. We love you.
הרגליים הקטנות שלך השאירו עקבות של אהבה בכל מקום בו פסעת. קולך חזך ריכך את הסלעים קשים ביותר. כמו עוף החול, ברת את עצמך שוב ושוב, ברוך ובאומץ. תחת טיפות של גשם סגול, זרעים של חסד באמת, שטמנת בלבבות של כולנו ילבלבו.
Uriah can join. Yeah.
I'm going to try to get through this. This is not going to be easy, guys. Wow. I'll be addressing Safta directly when I speak. This is all child, great grandchild and spouse, all here together to send you off. Oh. You have no idea how meaningful these past few days have been for us all. What a gift you've given us on your final days. It's absurd. We're here experiencing the saddest week of us as a family, but we're having so much damn fun at the same time. I wish he could have been with us for all of it. For every single minute, he would have absolutely loved it. But it was time to say goodbye. And I couldn't hope for a better setting for us all to say goodbye to you in body and to deepen the eternal connection we have with your beautiful purple soul. Ever since I was a toddler, whenever we had to say goodbye, because one of us was flying back home, you've taught me that we're always together, connected through love, as well as the material things like toys and clothes that you got for us, so we'll be reminded of you wherever we go. Standing here today, I'm proud to say I'm wearing socks and boxers courtesy of Safta. Even from the realm beyond, Saftush, you make my toes and tush feel comfy. You're truly always with us, now more than ever, both in undergarments and love. I'm so sorry you had to suffer these past few months, and I'm so thankful you hung till we all gathered around you. It was a true gift to hug and kiss you. Hear a Shabbat blessing for one last time. Have you meet your granddaughter, your great-granddaughter, Netta? Jesus. Moses. Oh. Oh. Have you meet your great-granddaughter, Netta, one last time. Thank you for that and for years and years of endless, unconditional love. Even in times of hardship, you were always there to nurture, spread unbelievable positivity, and above all else, sing. The second biggest joy of your life was music, and you rooted it deeply in each and every one of us. I can't believe I've heard your beautiful voice for the last time. I'm sorry we didn't spend more time making music together. Whenever we did, it was pure magic. You are a rock star, now resting with the greats. It was so beautiful hearing your granddaughters sing to you this week, seeing you singing the ABCs with Dory, and with the last bit of French you had, singing to us all. Thank you for the music, Safta. In the past few days, I find myself haunted by the song you sang to Yael and I when you blessed us at our wedding. We'll continue this conversation privately, Safta, but it feels right that I sum up the public portion by blessing you back with the same words, with a small amendment to the chorus. May you be blessed as you go on your way. May you be guided in light. Long years filled with health and joy. tranquility through the night, warm and close to the night. Today we stand hand in hand, sharing your love oh so true. We will always be strong, our souls united in song. That is our promise to you. Bye, Safta. We were lucky to have you. It ain't gonna be the same without you.
Now we're joined by Safta's granddaughters.
I didn't know that one. Oh, thanks for that. That's okay.
I just turn you a little to face the girls. Would that be okay, Andy?
That looks good.
Oh, I can intro while she does that. Okay, so Safta had this tradition where every one of our birthdays, she would sing a personalized version of the circle game. And I'm sure any grandkid at this point, probably great grandkids can say that they have heard it many times. And so recently we decided that it was her turn to get one. And so we spent some time rewriting it to tell her story. Originally, it was for her 88th birthday, and now it is here telling you guys her story, period. So it starts with as her as a child, and it carries through her chapters and through having great grandchildren. So we hope that you enjoy it. You have the lyrics with you if you want to sing along. Oh, we did get the chance to sing it for her twice over the last couple days. Once while she was talking, and then once while she was quiet. So she did hear it, and now she's gonna hear it again. A child came out to wonder, born with gifts for teaching and the arts, cheerful with the bright eyes of a dreamer, grateful for the world, all her heart. And the seasons, they go round and round, painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, but we're here to see about our tears of dawn, and I go round and round and round. in the circle game. When Lorraine grew up, became a mother, had a nurse and care for her first son. Soon he'd be the eldest of three brothers. Raise them to be clever, brave and fun. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on the carousel of time. We can't return, but we're here to sing about our dear Safta, and go round and in the circle game. 23 strings and all the children grown now. Ryan brings the first grandchild. Mother turns to Safta for 8 young ones, singing, laughing, calling, honey, please come down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, but we're here to sing about our dear Safta, and we'll go round and round in the circle game. So years to ride, and now she's got a great grandkid. With her train in her eyes, shine brightly back at her. Living her dreams, more fond memories for the family. About our dear Safta, and we'll go round and round in the circle game. Go round and round in the circle game.
Now the sons will speak.
Well, first off, may all of you have an Uriah at your memorial, because that was amazing. I am going to apologize in advance. I have been head down for 3 months. And I thought I was ready for this. And I thought she was ready for this. And turns out she was a lot more ready than I was. So I have never felt so naked in my life. But I'm going to lean into that. I had to write this out, and I'm going to have to read it because I'm not of mind to remember. So that's sort of good for you guys because it won't ramble on too long, but it's going to be buckle up. So yesterday I realized that I'm experiencing, I think, the mourner's version of phantom limb syndrome. people lose a limb and they kind of think it's still there. I keep reaching for my phone to call my mom, my lifelong best friend, to tell her that I just lost my lifelong best friend. It made me realize that my entire adult life, I thought I was riding the bike on my own. But now for the first time, the training wheels are gone. The scaffolding that was always been there, whether I was conscious of it or not, is not there. So today, in the incredibly generous amount of time that the Jewish religion and tradition has given me to reflect on all of that, I thought I'd try to capture the essence of my mom, not simply to honor her, but to identify the things I want to hold on to, learn from, and actually implement in my own life. Because my mom had something I've been striving for, an extraordinary ability to create a beautiful life and a beautiful environment wherever she went at every stage of her life. And she has the scars to prove it. I wasn't there to watch her grow up in poverty or immigrate to a new country. I wasn't even fully conscious as she raised 3 boys and tried to navigate what, based on reruns of every 1960s sitcom, appeared to be a very difficult period in history to stay married. But I do remember that we're always surrounded by friends. There were gatherings, music, and events. I remember watching her walk into rooms and light them up. I remember sitting in the front row at Temple Ramatzion and watching her absolutely slay it in The Fiddler on the Roof. I can still see her shining, almost with an aura around her that people were naturally drawn to. I grew up watching someone who's completely devoted to her children and would do absolutely anything for us. I don't need to go very far into this, because there isn't a person in this room who doesn't already understand what I'm talking about. And in an effort to keep the speech under an hour, I'm going to leave that one there. But I was there to watch her teach and put her heart and soul into every child who came through her classroom. I would sometimes go to school and I'd watch her guide those kids with love and respect. She sang with them, laughed with them, encouraged them, and put them firmly in their place when they crossed the line. I often wondered whether those kids understood that they had actually been given a second mom. I watched her navigate divorce and split families and rebuild friendships and support systems. I watched her move to Santa Barbara at 70 years old and immediately find a community and create lasting friendships. I watched her battle cancer twice, never complaining, and somehow spending more time worrying about everyone else than herself. Then I watched her move to Utah and leave behind much of her Jewish community. I worried about that. I felt guilty about it. She didn't bat an eyelash. Within a few months, she had a new group of friends, a trio, and was already a star at karaoke night. Then I watched her do the same thing at the hospital, the rehab center, and most recently at Avamar, where she lived only 4 weeks and somehow already had a permanent seat at the lunch and dinner table with the popular group. I can't tell you how many times someone has looked me in the face and said, "Your mother's amazing." It happened constantly, everywhere. I say all of this not to simply brag about how lucky I was to have her as mom, but to establish that she has some serious street credibility when it came to building a good life. I spent a lot of my own life thinking about what it actually means to have a good life. I don't think we ask that question enough. And when we do, our answers are often pretty superficial or materialistic. We think about the house, the car, the vacations, the accomplishments, or the money in the bank. But that's never really landed for me. I've known far too many people who appear to be living the American dream and are completely miserable. My mom didn't have any of that. She didn't have anything lavish. She didn't own a fancy house or drive a fancy car. But she loved her life, and everywhere she went, people loved her. Everyone knew she was an amazing mother, but I think that undersells it. Caring for people was not simply something she did, it was who she was. Her name might have been her name might have well as been legally changed to Safta. For those who know her, Safta is for those who don't know, Safta is a Hebrew for grandmother. Think about that for a moment. Everyone called her Safta. She somehow became everyone's grandmother. She understood something that I think very few people truly understand. Having a good life is actually pretty simple. It means having more good days than bad when you look back on them. And that raises another question. How do you have a good day? You have more good moments than bad moments. That's really it. It's simple, but it isn't easy because human beings have an incredible ability to ignore 99 good moments and fixate on the one bad one. We can spend an entire day surrounded by the people we love, eating good food, laughing and enjoying ourselves, and then allow one frustrating conversation to become the story of the day. Safta was a master at refusing to do that. People constantly tell us to be present and live in the moment. Over the last 3 months, I was given an absolute masterclass on what that actually looks like. As many of you know, my mom was diagnosed with autoimmune encephalitis. Those are 2 words I had heard independently, but I had never heard them put together. And apparently when those 2 words come together, they are really pissed off. The disease caused symptoms that looked like dementia, but eventually developed into extremely painful physical symptoms. For the final 6 weeks of her life, Mom endured relentless muscle spasms. I'm not talking about a small twitch. I'm talking about the kind of cramps that pull you out of a dead sleep and sometimes hurt for days afterwards. Her spasms will last 20 to 30 seconds. On average, they came about every 10 minutes, thousands of them. They destroyed her quality of life and prevented her from making the physical recovery that we all believed was possible. I watched her endure them over and over. I was angry at them. When they ended, I always expected her to be angry too. Courtney, who cared for my mom relentlessly and beautifully, made sure we always referred to them by the correct medical terminology. The fucking cramps are back. But here was the incredible thing. The second the spasm ended, my mom would look me in the eye and say something like, "How was Aston's soccer game?" Or, "Did Lulu have a good time with her boyfriend last night? How's Courtney? Is she getting some rest? How are you doing, Ian?" Every time. She barely acknowledged what had just happened. She simply placed her attention back on the people she loved. She didn't pretend the pain wasn't real. She just refused to let the pain become the whole story. Having grown up with her, I'd like to believe I'm probably better at this than most people, but Mom showed me just how far I still have to go. She taught me that we can't always control what happens in a moment, but we have much more control than we realize over where we place our attention. She finally got that lesson through to me, just in the nick of time, because we're living in a world where it's become incredibly easy to focus on everything that's wrong, everything that frightens us, and everything that divides us. So for Safta's sake, I plan to make a small pact today. I hope you'll join me. Let's try and remember that there's a beauty in almost every moment, and we get to decide whether we're willing to see it. And then there was the music. This entire ceremony reflects how deeply music was woven into Mom's life, so I don't need to spend too much time explaining it. Most people knew her as Safta, but let's just say that some people know her as the artist formerly known as Lorraine Music. During her first hospitalization about 3 months ago, our family would often gather in her room and sing. Her room was directly across from the nurse's station. At first, the nurses would rush in because they thought someone was screaming. Eventually, they came to understand that this was simply another performance by the Silverberg family. One of those nurses was named Kylie. She remembered the singing. Several weeks later, Mom's spasm had become unbearable. The doctors wanted to let her medications wash out so they could determine how much of her cognitive decline was caused by the disease and how much was caused by medications. That meant reducing the tried to her remarkable how when the pain subsided, Mom came back. She was awake. She could communicate. She was herself. But then the nerve block would wear off, and we were right back where we started. We proposed an epidural. It was supposed to happen Monday night. It didn't. Then Tuesday morning, it didn't. By Tuesday afternoon, I was sitting next to Mom, and she moaned in pain, barely conscious and barely present. At the same time, my brother, Bryan, and Donna, and the rest of the Israeli clan were arriving, starting in about 1 hour. I desperately wanted them to see Mom, not seeing her suffering. After about an hour, I decided I could not do it anymore. I was going to find the nurse and tell her that it was time for hospice. I walked out of the room, and just then, as I did, the anesthesiologist walked toward me and said, "We're ready." They performed an epidural right in Mom's hospital room. It was supposed to take 10 minutes. Instead, more and more people kept entering the room. 10 minutes became 20, 20 became 30. I can hear my mom making sounds. and they weren't great. I was convinced she was suffering. My heart sank. I thought I'd made the wrong decision. I thought our final Hail Mary had failed. Eventually, the doctors and nurses began walking out. Someone said, first, my heart sank. Strange familiar. Then I realized her noises were, I hope you dance. I couldn't believe it. During the procedure, when things had become difficult, that nurse Kylie from 3 months earlier remembered that we always were singing, and she went out and got her phone and brought it in and turned it on. The second she did that, the anesthesiologist told me that Mom just relaxed and they were able to get the epidural in. That was it. One small act. But that small act had grown from another small act months earlier, when our family decided to sing together in a hospital room. Kylie noticed, she remembered, and at exactly the right moment, she acted. The music relaxed her, enough for them to complete the epidural. The epidural relieved the pain enough for Mom to return to us. Later, when I asked her what she remembered from the previous few days, she remembered almost nothing, but she remembered the music. I asked her why she started singing, and she said, I didn't like the song they were playing, so I decided to sing one I liked better. That was Mom. We all understand the power of sticking the landing. We watch Olympic the landing. Had a run, just years old, and she was dealt a really difficult hand. Played that hand as well as it was possible. Not second any of it. But when I look back, I believe that one small act of kindness allowed Mom to stick the landing of her life. The epidural unlocked 3 magical days when we could be fully present and surrounded by every person she had a direct hand in bringing into this world, along with the spouses, the partners, and the loved ones who became part of our family because of them. Nearly 20 of us, 3 generations of families she created. We're together in that room. We laughed. We told stories. We held hands. We sang songs. We crammed children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren into a hospital room and celebrated the life that made all of ours possible. We were given the only pain-free days she had experienced in 6 weeks at the exact moment her entire family had gathered around her. That was a miracle. And it brought me back to everything Mom had taught me. We tend to think of life as shaped by the big decisions, but most of life is built through tiny ones. One smile, one friendship, one song, one question about someone else, one nurse paying attention, one family singing in a hospital room months earlier, one person remembering a small act of kindness, leading to another and then another. Little by little, a little becomes a lot. Mom spent 88 years making those tiny choices. She chose gratitude. She chose humility. She chose music. She chose other people. She chose to see the good moment instead of allowing the painful one to consume everything around us. Eventually, all those little choices became a life, a really good life. People keep telling me over these last few days that I really showed up for Mom, and that she was lucky to have me. But clearly, I was the lucky one. I got to spend more time with her over these last 3 months than anyone else did. I got the conversations, the songs, the laughter, the ordinary moments, the one final masterclass in how to live. That was a gift only I got quite that way, and I'm sorry the rest of you didn't get the same time with her. But I hope I've been able to pass a little of that gift on today, so you can take it with you and make it a part of your own life. For Safta's sake, let's try and notice the good moment. Choose the people in front of us, and remember that little by little, the small ways we live become our whole life. The scaffolding may be gone, the training wheels may be off, but she left me everything I need to keep riding. Mom, thank you for showing us how to build a good life. One moment, one person, and one song at a time. I hope you're dancing because you deserve a really good dance. Finally, I can't thank you enough for not only bringing us into this world, but for letting us spend this time together. I love you, Mom, and I love all of you.
Wow. Ian, thank you for doing that short version of your speech. We appreciate that.
How long was that? I really blacked out.
I fell asleep. I don't know. Let's see. All right. First of all, it is so special that I'm just standing here looking at all of you. I keep thinking, well, this must happen all the time, but that, I mean, Ian brought us basically for her life up until a few days ago, but the fact that 20 of us were in that room all together on that last day, it's just amazing. But I do want to, before I talk too much, I do want to thank Ian and Courtney and Lauryn and Ashton, and all the Eden crew out here. Thank you so much, because what you guys did was just heroic. So we'll always love you for that. Thank you. I kind of knew that Ian was going to pretty much talk about every single thing that she did. So I won't be getting into saying the same thing again. I was just checking off things on my list. Yep. Okay, I'm going to say that. So I just wanted to, I don't know why when I started thinking about what am I going to say, I just felt like I needed to come up with some words to describe her. And there were just so many. I mean, the first words I thought of is, loving, caring, kind, compassionate. And I think everybody here, everyone who knew her, there's just so many examples of that. That was just who she was. When you talk to her, it was just immediately, tell me about you. How can we help? And it was just, she just always cared about others. It was just love. Then I started thinking about, friendly and giving and approachable and I mean, Ian, you mentioned this a little bit, but just like you, I've had so many people say, "Oh, I met your mom. She's amazing." Except I would sometimes get people coming up and saying, "Oh, how's your mom? How's she liking, the new place?" And I would kind of look at them and be like, how do you know about this? Because my friends, many of them didn't just meet her and say she was amazing. They kept in touch with her. They were saying they're sharing birthday wishes. I kept thinking, I was like, I meet friends, I meet their parents. They're amazing, but I don't call them on their birthday. I don't even know when their birthday is. Some other words are purple. That speaks for itself. I'm not gonna just have to say that. Strong, independent, Ian, you mentioned this. At 70 years old, she uprooted and moved to Santa Barbara. And I don't know if it was a good decision or not. I mean, in the end, of course it was, but that is just incredible to do that at that age, just, start a new life. And then again, she did it twice. But I mean, it's almost brave. Like, it's so, we all think about it. We think about, oh, well, I'm just going to do this, but she did it. I think about it all the time. How did she do that? And when I say brave, like, she didn't seem scared of anything. Now, worrier, yes, I think she was a worrier of great proportions, finding things to worry about that I couldn't believe. It got to the point where we were just like, okay, Mom, I'm not going to talk about that. Let's talk about something else. But not scared, sort of always strong. Like you could talk to her about anything. She could handle anything. She may not have been, she may have liked it, but she was like, yeah, like, don't talk politics with her. And then some other words I thought of are, talented, musical. If there was an event, there was Mom with her guitar and she's singing a songs she wrote or not, she, like, every single event there is, she's singing. Birthdays, weddings, bar mitzvahs, everything. And gifted. I hope we all get a chance to listen to some recordings, to hear her voice. And lately, I had some recordings which have terrible sound quality, I admit it. But the recordings that we made, or recordings that were professionally done, but when you hear her voice, it was just so clear and pure. It's like, it just, I thought about it. It's like, it feels like she was sharing her soul when you hear her voice. And again, you heard about the hospital, but I'll tell you, on Friday morning, she was coming off the epidural, and we were waiting to see if, we knew that if the pain came back, that she would go to hospice. And all of us were in the room, and it was sort of quiet, and then she started to grimace and moan. She was somewhat communicating, but clearly in pain, which we knew what that meant. And we took the phone and we started playing You Raise Me Up. And so we start playing the song, and we're hearing the everyone's sort of quiet, and we're listening to the song, and then it gets to the chorus, and she's sort of just sitting back, and it gets to You Raise Me Up. And we're all, we just started laughing, and we just be sure. Some other words are beautiful, stunning. If you can, take a look at some of the old pictures. I mean, it's kind of amazing how beautiful she is. Obviously, we look at her, but beauty changes over time. But she was an incredible woman. And so for me, and at the end, as Ian was mentioning, she was having some memory issues. There was constant pain, and it was really the same thing. I would do, for me, it was mostly by phone. I had some times here, but we'd be talking, and then I'd hear the grimacing, and I'd say, okay, just wait, I'll wait. So I had nothing to do but time them, because I'm on a phone just listening and looking at my phone. But it was the same thing. As the second the pain subsided, it was, so tell me about Alexia. How's Zach? How's Zach's new job? It was, and every single time, and I knew that, so I was just like, okay, we'll wait till this is done, and we'll continue the conversation. And just go. But there were fewer memories and not a whole lot going on. And so I realized that at the end, it was just her essence I was talking to, because I would call and I knew nothing had changed in the last 24 or 48 hours. There was no new event in her life. And so, but with her, she would just turn on, and it was just kindness, it was just giving and what's happening. And we would just go through the same thing. And it was sort of amazing. Every conversation I had with her at the end for the last probably 6 weeks, I think probably many of you, it felt like she was saying, we're going to say goodbye today. And she was talking that way. And like, I'm so lucky to have had you. I love, like, saying, like, we said goodbye every time we hung up. And at the time I was like, Mom, we're going to all be out there in July, and we'll go to lunch and we'll talk. And she's like, don't worry about it. I mean, look at my clothes. When we packed, we didn't know we were going to be here on this day. But they don't. Yeah, this just seems mom was magical. And I heard that and I said, yeah, that's the word. And I know it because every time I think of her and I think of the word magical, I start to cry. And so, Mom, I love you. Thank you for everything. I will miss you for us. And I'm just sad to see you go.
The worst part about going last is I can't see. And everything's already been said, so I'm gonna be Deuteronomy, and I'm gonna sum up everything that has been said, basically. But I am gonna read it because there's no other way. I actually find it amazing that I lived almost 64 years with both my parents, which is incredible. Mom, Safta, was so loving, caring, and dedicated to her family that it was often at her own expense. Her joy was focused on all of us, and everyone she met and everyone who met her felt it. She made friends faster than kindergartners. She was always happy for others' successes and upset about their failures, sometimes so much so that it was at her own expense, and she felt pain for other people's problems. I had to stop telling her when something was going wrong, like I misspelled a text that I sent to somebody, or I stepped in water in my socks, because those were end of the world stuff for her. She watched The View. That must have been harrowing for her, connecting to the ills of the world like that. But those were the emotions that engulfed Safta. Everyone loved her. She didn't love everyone, except family. But everyone loved her. And of course, it was said already, she loved to sing. Music was the only passion that came close to family. She didn't do it her way. She did it the way that made people around her happy. Independence was in her DNA, for those who remember Bubby Ida. She never wanted help, found that was a burden that was not to be tolerated. So I can only imagine how those last few years were for her when she lost some of her independence. I'm sure psychologists could explain how her amazingness was a result of her upbringing in Montreal. That must have not been easy. She would often remind us while we were polishing off a box of ding-dongs in one sitting that when she grew up, she was poor and only got 1 cube of chocolate a week. We didn't get it. Her finest hour may have been when she was 13 and wanted to go to camp, but they couldn't afford it. So she walked over to a local business,
convinced them that she needed a job. She got it, went to camp, met our dad, and all this happened. There were what seemed to me anyway, great years for us in LA in the 60s until around 1973, the oil crisis and divorce. The late 70s were a challenge for her, to say the least. She would often lose it and yell, "You're driving me crazy," which was mostly directed at Ian. Vivid memory. I have a vivid memory. But I must have been a challenge too. She found my weed den when I was 14. And for the first and only time in my life, she grounded me for 2 weeks. It actually lasted 4 days. In the 80s, she added 3 more children to her docket. Second marriage, moved a few times, sold her house to Derek Fisher. I consider that a milestone. Then she became Safta Lorraine. She visited us in Israel almost every year, and our biannual visits to LA were among the best memories of my life. And we always hated coming back. 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was. Her early 60s and the early 2000s were rough and culminated in her going independent again. Her 70th birthday bash was like an independence party. She moved out of the Valley for the first time since 1964 and started a chapter in Santa Barbara. She had friends, interests, put out a second album, and most importantly, had a family close by to help her adjust the heat in her house. And she finally had grandkids in the same city. This may be a good time, which has already been said, to thank Ian and Courtney on how incredible they have been, not just the past few months, but for as long as I can remember with her. Thank you so much. She always had someone to lean on, although she didn't, but you always knew her needs, and thank you. The last chapter for her was not what anyone would have wished for. It was cruel, relentless, and painful. It started when COVID isolated her. She was alone and couldn't remain that way. Winston Churchill said, "When you're going through hell, just keep going," and that's what she did. After 3 long years on her own and never complaining, well, she complained a lot. Not about herself, about her TV, about a lot of other little things, about her heat in her house. She moved to Utah, but she was no longer capable of that kind of move or any drastic change for that matter. It was late. Trio was good for her, but she needed her Jews and a simpler TV. During that time, she still worried about everyone. Wars weren't helpful, and I couldn't hide the hard news. She saw it on The View. To paraphrase a quote from How I Met Your Mother, it's hard to imagine a world without my mother in it. But as our physical bodies are created from stardust, our souls are created from Safta, and she is always in it. We love her immensely, miss her terribly, and will remember the great life she had and the incredible times we had with her.
Her family captured so much of who, I'm just going to switch to Safta now because that's what I would want to call her. And I was being official and calling her Lorraine, but Safta makes a lot more sense. But her family really captured who Safta was. And when I was meeting with them last night, one of the things I said and how they described it, and they knew this, is that Safta died the way she lived. Everybody was coming in for her birthday. Everybody was there together. And what's remarkable to me, and I really don't believe in coincidences, what's remarkable to me is the time that she died in the Jewish calendar is incredibly auspicious and speaks really to who she always was. On Wednesday, the entire Jewish world will go through a period of mourning for Tisha B'Av. And while the Jewish world isn't specifically mourning Safta, everybody will be mourning with Safta's family and Safta's friends. And that mourning will be reflected in the pain that the Jewish people went through, just as Safta did at the end of her life. But this weekend, we get the most beautiful Torah portion, half Torah portion, I think, in our entire tradition, which is the half Torah portion that we call Nachamu. It's the half Torah and Shabbat of comfort. So just as we go through mourning, we come again to comfort. And I want to highlight one piece that is so consistent with what everybody said. And I think that the greatest gift that Safta has given all of you. Nachamu starts, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Nachamu is the word for comfort. It is not a divine source saying, I'm giving you comfort. It's actually a command saying, you must comfort. Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. We must comfort. And the Ami part, there's one way that we can interpret it, which is Kama Ami. It is a command to God's people to comfort each other. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. You, my people, shall provide comfort to each other. And it does seem that what Safta made sure of is that all of you are there together to provide comfort to each other. Her final gift to all of you, those who she loved so much and was so incredibly proud of, her final gift to all of you, is each other, and the way that you can be there for each other and love each other and be proud of each other, just as Safta had. We finish hearing about Safta through her own voice, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the song because I don't speak Yiddish, but it is what Safta was famous for in a lot of her music. I am so sorry. It wants me to log in every time I press the play button. Give me one moment. Let me see if I happen to have a Spotify account.
Just put it loud speaker.
This one in my hand.
Well, they won't hear. I think. Do it here?
Like on this one?
Yeah, just do it. Try it.
Can you hear this?
I can hear it. Yeah. Thank you.
Wat kom en vegela, reisen doch, ze kommst in dein Weg, das Päckl in der Hand, das heißt in der Sprache. Wir losen sich, mein Kind, so viel Weg, das Päckl in der Hand. Just as in ocean, you know, my kids will feel. Mit Schulter und mit Schreck. Wir stehen wieder in schwere Schuld. Und weiß nicht, wohin es wird fliehen. Wir stehen wieder in schwere Schuld. Und weiß nicht, wohin es wird fliehen. Men hat uns nachgeblöst, verjogt von unser Haus. Und in Finsternis getrieben uns in Feld. Sturm Hagelwind, sagt uns begleitet mein Kind, begleitet uns. Mach zu die Jägerlach, Gott kommt in Fegerlach, und preisen doch, sie kommen zu dein Lieb, das Bettchen in der Hand, das Häus in Aschenbrand. Wir lassen sich mein Kies so früh, das Bettchen. Das weiß ich doch, schon bekannt. Wir lassen uns mein Kids bringen.
So I explained to the family everything that we do for someone after they die is really for the people who are left to survive their loss, having to grieve. There is one exception, and that is a prayer called El Malei Rachamim, which is the one prayer that we actually say on behalf of the deceased. It is essentially asking that whatever happens next, it is something of comfort. It is something that we can imagine is beautiful. In a moment, I will ask people to rise for El Malei Rachamim. If you are at home, you can stay seated or rise as you wish. Following El Malei Rachamim will be the Mourner's Kaddish. Those who are in the congregation have copies of the Mourner's Kaddish. At home, if you don't have copies, you can join in with the words Amen when you hear it. We now rise for El Malei Rachamim. Amalei Rachamim, Shochen Bamramim, Hansei Menucha Nechana Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kirashim Utchorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat, Liv Shabbat Moshe Va'ida, Shahalcha L'olama, Baal HaRachamim Yistareha, Beseter Kanfav L'olamim, Vayitzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava, v'nomar, and we say, Amen. Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Safta, to Lorraine, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. As together we say, Amen. And now beginning the period of mourning, the family will say Kaddish Yatom, a prayer that they will continue to say during this time of mourning for their mom, for Safta, for their mother-in-law, for their grandmother, for their great-grandmother. They join with me. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'almad dirach shirtei v'amnich malchutei, v'chayachon uvyemechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olam ne'almaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'olam min kol berchata v'shirata Tishbachata v'nachamata damiran b'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav v'ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. And we do pray that the source of peace send peace to those who mourn and comfort, especially among Safta's family, as they are bereaved. You may be seated. In a Reform memorial service, the very last word we will hear is the word I think Safta would want us to hear. It's the word I think Safta would want ringing in our heads. It's the word life. I'll say a few words, traditional words for the mourners. And for all of you who are zooming in, I'm sure your own memories have been triggered by listening to everything the family had to say. Those memories are precious. You can feel free to write them down, to send them to the family, to hold them closely in your hearts. The ideal is for us in our lives to live in a way that Safta has inspired us and to hold her highest values in front of us so that we can fulfill her living through us. We say now, Lech ki shelachach Adonai. Go your way, for God has called you. Lech v'Adonai hiya imach. Go your way, and may God be with you. V'alach lefanecha, tzidkecha, kavod Adonai ya'asfecha. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. And now we do pray that you go forth in peace to life. Thank you all for being with us as we have said goodbye to Safta, to Lorraine.
Thank you, guys. It'll be great. That'll be really good. Full happen.
Do y'all want to come see anybody on Zoom? Can you see faces?
Iris and Kurt. Up, guys. There's a